The metal walls of Kethmore Station hummed with the constant vibration of artificial gravity generators. Captain Tae-ho Kim walked through the main corridor with steady steps. His black uniform bore the simple Earth symbol on the shoulder. Behind him followed 3 other humans. They looked small compared to the alien beings that filled the station. Kethmore Station floated in the darkness between star systems. It was a place where different species came to trade and make deals. The station was built like a giant wheel spinning slowly in space. Lights from thousands of windows dotted its surface like stars. Tae-ho stopped at a viewing port and looked out at the void. He had been in space for 15 years, but the endless black still made him think. Earth was far away now, so far that its sun was just another point of light. Captain Kim. The voice belonged to Do-won Lee. He was a young man with quick eyes and nervous hands. The Velthari representatives are waiting in Section C. Tae-ho nodded. Thank you, Do-won. Are our quarters ready? Yes, sir. 3 rooms near the diplomatic wing. Nari has already started setting up her medical equipment. Tae-ho looked at his communications officer. Do-won was smart, but this was his first mission outside human space. Everything here would be new to him. The smells, the sounds, the way aliens moved and talked. They walked deeper into the station. The corridor grew wider and the ceiling higher. This section was built for larger species. A group of Velthari merchants passed them going the other way. They were tall reptilian beings with green scales and yellow eyes. Their long tails swept behind them as they walked. One of them stopped and looked down at the humans. His head tilted to one side like a curious snake. Humans. The word came out as a hiss. So small. So soft-looking. Tae-ho met the alien's gaze without flinching. We are the diplomatic team from Earth, here for the mining negotiations. The Velthari made a sound that might have been laughter. Yes, the mining rights. Such ambitious little mammals. He turned and continued down the corridor with his companions. Do-won frowned. They do not seem to respect us much. No. Tae-ho agreed. They do not. That is why we are here, to change that. They reached Section C and found their assigned quarters. The rooms were basic but clean. Human-sized furniture had been provided, though it looked strange next to the alien architecture. Nari Choi was already unpacking her medical supplies when they entered. She was a small woman with gentle hands and sharp intelligence. Her job was to study alien biology and keep the team healthy during their mission. How are you settling in Nari? Tae-ho asked. Well enough, Captain. The air mixture is good. Gravity feels normal. Temperature is a bit cool, but nothing we cannot handle. She held up a small device. I have been scanning the local environment. No dangerous bacteria or toxins detected. The 4th member of their team sat by the window looking out at the docking bays. Hyjin Park appeared to be reading reports on a datapad. She looked up when the others entered. Captain, the Velthari have requested we meet them for dinner tonight before tomorrow's negotiations. Sector D, Level 15, Tae-ho studied her. Hyjin was listed as their cultural attaché. Her job was to help them understand alien customs and avoid diplomatic mistakes. She was a quiet woman who seemed to notice everything around her. What do you think of this dinner invitation? He asked her. Ye-jin set down her datapad. It is normal for the Velthari to share food before business discussions. They believe it builds trust, however. She paused. I have been monitoring their communications. Some of their messages are encrypted. That could be normal business security, Do-won suggested. Perhaps, Hyejin agreed, but her tone suggested she did not think so. Tae-ho looked around at his team. 3 people to help him negotiate mining rights for rare metals that Earth desperately needed. The metals were found on dead worlds in this sector. Worlds the Velthari controlled but did not use. Let me be clear about our situation, he said. Earth needs those mining rights. Our manufacturing depends on rare elements we cannot find in our own system. The Velthari know this. They will try to get the best deal possible. What if they refuse? Nari asked. Then we find another way, but let us hope it does not come to that. The hours passed slowly. Tae-ho reviewed the negotiation files while Do-won studied Velthari language patterns. Nari organized her medical equipment and ran tests on the station's environment. Hyejin spent most of her time at the window watching the docking bays. Ships came and went constantly. Most were Velthari cargo vessels, but other species used the station too. She saw Krek ships with their dark hulls and sharp edges. She saw the flowing curves of Altarian pleasure craft. Interesting traffic patterns, she said quietly. Teho looked up from his files. What do you mean? 3 Krex vessels have docked since we arrived. Krex rarely use civilian stations. They prefer their own facilities. Maybe they have business. Here, maybe. Hyejin turned back to her datapad but continued watching the windowed evening came according to the station's artificial day cycle. The lights in the corridors dimmed to simulate sunset. The 4 humans prepared for their dinner with the Velthari. Taiho wore his formal uniform with extra decorations to show Earth's respect for the occasion. Dowan carried a translation device, though most aliens spoke standard. Nari brought a small medical scanner in case they were served food that might be harmful to humans. Hyejin dressed simply in dark clothes that did not draw attention. She carried only a small bag with what appeared to be diplomatic documents. They walked through the station's main levels toward Sector D. Other beings moved around them, going about their business. The air smelled of different atmospheres mixing together. Sounds echoed off the metal walls. Remember, Teho said as they rode the lift up to level 15. We are guests here. We follow their customs. We stay polite no matter what they say or do. The lift opened onto a corridor lined with private dining rooms. Signs in multiple languages marked each door. They found the room reserved for their meeting. Teho pressed the entry button and the door slid open with a soft hiss. After you, Captain, Hyejin said with a small smile. He stepped through the doorway into what would soon become a trap that would test everything. They thought they knew about survival in the galaxy. The dining room was larger than Taiho had expected. Soft blue lights cast shadows across the curved walls. The table was long and low-built for Velthari anatomy. Cushions had been placed on the floor for the human guests to sit on. 5 Velthari waited for them inside. Their green scales gleamed under the artificial lighting. Yellow eyes tracked the humans as they entered. The largest one stepped forward with fluid grace. Welcome, humans. I am Commander Seth of the Velthari Consortium. These are my business partners. He gestured with a clawed hand toward the others. Teho bowed slightly in the human custom. I am Captain Teho Kim. This is my team. Communications Officer Do-Won Lee. Medical Officer Nari Choi. Cultural Attaché Hyejin Park. Seth's forked tongue flicked out briefly, tasting the air. Please sit. We have prepared foods that your species can consume safely. The humans settled onto the cushions around the low table. The position felt awkward and put them at a disadvantage looking up at the tall reptilians. Teho wondered if this was intentional. Servers brought plates of food that looked and smelled familiar enough. Fruits that resembled Earth varieties. Grains cooked in simple ways. Protein that might have been synthetic meat. We understand humans require frequent feeding, Seth said as he settled his long body onto a platform designed for his species. Your metabolism burns energy quickly, yes. We eat regularly, Teho agreed, though not as often as some species believe. Do-Won picked at his food nervously. Everything looked safe, but the translator device at his side kept picking up conversations in the background. Velthari voices speaking in their own language, just quiet enough that he could not make out the words. Nari used her medical scanner discreetly to check each dish before eating. The reading showed nothing dangerous, but something felt wrong. The Velthari were being too friendly, too accommodating. Hyejin ate slowly and watched everything. The positioning of the servers. The way the Velthari kept glancing toward the door. The fact that this dining room had no windows and only one exit. Tell us about these mining rights, Seth said after they had been eating for several minutes. What exactly does Earth want from our territory? Teho set down his utensil. The asteroid fields in the Kepler sector contain rare metals that we need for our technology. Lithium variants that do not exist in our home system. We are prepared to offer fair payment and percentage agreements. Fair payment. One of the other Velthari spoke up. His voice carried amusement. What could a species as young as yours offer that we would find valuable? Our manufacturing capabilities are growing rapidly, Do-Won said. We can provide finished goods, technology, ship components. The Velthari around the table made sounds that might have been laughter. Their heads swayed slightly from side to side. Human technology, Seth hissed. Primitive compared to most galactic standards. Your ships barely manage faster than light travel. Your weapons are chemical explosives and simple energy beams. Teho kept his expression calm even as anger built in his chest. Every species starts somewhere. We are willing to learn and adapt. Yes, adaptation. Seth leaned forward. That is something humans do well, we have heard. You survive in conditions that would kill other mammals. You heal from injuries that would be fatal to weaker creatures. Something in his tone made Heejin look up sharply. The way Seth spoke about human survival abilities sounded less like respect and more like evaluation. The conversation continued for another hour. The Velthari asked many questions about human biology, how long humans could survive without food or water, how quickly they healed from wounds, what temperatures they could endure. Duan answered most of the technical questions while Taeho tried to steer the discussion back to mining rights. But the Velthari seemed more interested in human capabilities than business arrangements. Perhaps we should discuss specific contract terms, Taeho suggested when the questions became too personal. Of course, Seth agreed. But first, we have arranged a small demonstration of local products. Some of our business partners wanted to meet you. Before Taeho could ask what he meant, the dining room door slid open. 6 creatures entered that were not Velthari. They moved on multiple legs with clicking sounds against the metal floor. Kreks. Taeho recognized them from intelligence briefings. Insectoid species known for piracy and illegal trading. Their dark shells gleamed like polished metal. Compound eyes reflected the room's lighting in multiple colors. What is the meaning of this? Taeho started to stand, but one of the Velthari moved behind him. Please remain seated, Captain Kim, Seth said. His tone had changed completely. Gone was the polite business partner. Now he sounded like a predator speaking to prey. The largest Krek stepped forward. Its mandibles clicked together as it spoke. Fresh humans. Excellent condition. These will bring high prices in the outer markets. Duwan's translator device screamed with alarm signals as it tried to process the rapid exchange of alien languages. Multiple species talking at once about prices and transportation and holding facilities. You cannot be serious, Nari whispered. This is a diplomatic station. There are laws, Seth laughed, made by species with power to enforce them. Humans have no power here, little mammal. You are simply another resource to be harvested. The Kreks moved closer to the table. Their movements were quick and jerky like hunting insects. One of them carried devices that looked like restraint collars. Taeho realized with growing horror that this had been planned from the beginning. The dinner invitation, the private room, the questions about human biology. They had walked directly into a trap. The Galactic Council will respond to this, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The Council deals with recognized species, Seth replied. Humans are still considered a minor race, barely past primitive status, who will miss a few explorers who got lost in space. The Kreks designated as leader approached the table directly, its compound eyes fixed on each human in turn like it was selecting merchandise. These specimens are undamaged, it said in broken standard. Good muscle tone. Healthy appearance. The females will be especially valuable. It reached toward Hyejin with one clawed appendage. She looked up at the creature with calm eyes and spoke in a clear, steady voice. Hands off. The room fell silent for a moment. Then the laughter began. Velthari hissing with amusement. Krek's mandibles clicking in what passed for humor among their kind. A small human female giving orders to armed slavers. The absurdity of it struck them as hilarious. They had no idea they had just made the worst mistake of their lives. The laughter echoed off the metal walls of the dining room. The Krek's leader's mandibles clicked together in rapid bursts that sounded like breaking glass. The Velthari swayed their heads from side to side while making hissing sounds that passed for amusement among their kind. Did you hear that, Seth? One of the Velthari said between hisses. The little mammal thinks she can give us commands. Commander Seth's yellow eyes gleamed with cruel humor. I heard Vex. Perhaps she does not understand her situation yet. The Krek's leader moved closer to Hyejin. Its compound eyes reflected the room's lighting in dozens of tiny rainbows. Each eye seemed to examine a different part of her as if cataloging her value. This one has spirit, the creature said. Its voice buzzed like an insect's wings. Buyers pay extra for specimens with personality. Makes them more entertaining. Hyejin remained perfectly still on her cushion. Her hands rested calmly in her lap. Her breathing stayed steady and controlled. She looked directly at the Kreks without showing any sign of fear. I said hands off, she repeated. Her voice was quiet but clear. This is your only warning. The renewed laughter was even louder this time. One of the smaller Kreks actually fell backward, clicking its legs in the air. The Velthari servers joined in with their own hissing sounds. Warning. Seth could barely speak through his amusement. She warns us. A soft little human female warned seasoned hunters. Duan started to move but felt clawed hands grip his shoulders. Two Velthari had positioned themselves behind the seated humans. Neural disruptor weapons appeared in their hands like magic tricks. Stay very still, communications officer. One of them whispered. These weapons will scramble your nervous system. Very painful. Sometimes permanent. Teho felt similar hands on his own shoulders. The reality of their situation hit him like cold water. They had walked into this trap completely unprepared. No backup, no weapons. No escape route, Nari, he said quietly. Are you injured? No, Captain, came her shaky voice from across the table. But they have some kind of restraint devices ready. The Krex leader heard their conversation and clicked with amusement. Smart mammals. You understand now, yes. No escape, no rescue, no hope. It turned back to Hyejin and extended one sharp claw toward her face. This one will need to learn obedience before sale. Some buyers prefer broken spirits. Hyejin looked up at the creature towering over her. Her expression never changed from calm attention. She spoke as if commenting on the weather. You should listen to warnings when they are given freely. More threats. The Krex buzzed with laughter. What will you do, small human? Bite me with your tiny teeth. Scratch me with your soft nails. The other Krex joined their leader's amusement. 6 insectoid predators surrounding 4 helpless mammals. The outcome seemed obvious to everyone in the room, except to Hyejin. She shifted slightly on her cushion. The movement looked like simple discomfort from sitting on the floor too long. No one paid attention to how she positioned her weight or the angle of her legs. Perhaps we should begin processing them, one of the smaller Krex suggested. The holding cells are prepared. Transport leaves in 6 hours. Patience, Chitik, the leader replied. I want to enjoy this moment. Look at them. So helpless. So afraid. Chitik moved around the table toward Nari. The medical officer pressed back against her cushion as the creature approached. Its claws gleamed in the soft lighting. This one smells of medicine. Chitik buzzed. Healers bring good prices. Always demand for medical slaves. Seth watched the proceedings with satisfaction. 20 years we have hunted in this sector. Never seen prey walk so willingly into our web. The humans were easy to deceive, Bex agreed. Their diplomats trust too quickly, believe too easily in peaceful intentions. Duan's translator device continued beeping with alarm signals until one of the Velthari smashed it with the butt of his weapon. Sparks flew and the device went silent. No more listening to private conversations, the alien hissed. The Krex leader reached down toward Hyejin again. This time it intended to grab her arm and pull her to her feet. Its claw moved slowly toward her wrist like it was savoring the moment of contact. Time to collar this one, it said. Then we see how much fight she really has. Hyejin watched the claw approach with the same calm expression she had worn all evening. Her breathing remained steady. Her muscles stayed relaxed. She looked like a woman accepting the inevitable. The claw touched her wrist. I warned. You? She said quietly. And then everything changed. The movement was so fast that most of the aliens missed it completely. One moment, Hyejin sat peacefully on her cushion. The next moment, the Krex leader was falling backward with green fluid spraying from its throat. She had moved like liquid lightning. Her hand struck the creature's neck with surgical precision, while her other hand drew something from inside her jacket. A blade appeared in her grip as if materialized from thin air. The plasma edge ignited with a soft hum. Red light bathed the dining room in bloody illumination. What? Seth started to say, but his words died as the Krex leader hit the floor with a wet thud. Chitik stared at its fallen companion. Green blood pooled around the body. The leader's compound eyes had gone dark and empty. Impossible. Chitik buzzed. She was sitting down. She had no weapons. Hyejin stood up slowly. The plasma blade cast shifting shadows across her face. Her calm expression had not changed, but something else showed in her eyes now. Something cold and predatory. You laughed, she said. Her voice carried no emotion at all. You laughed when I gave you a chance to walk away. The Velthari behind Teho and Dowan raised their neural disruptors but hesitated. This was not how prey was supposed to behave. Prey ran or cowered or begged for mercy. Prey did not kill predators with their bare hands. Kill her, Seth hissed. Kill her now. But even as the words left his mouth, he knew they had made a terrible mistake. The soft little human female was not what she appeared to be, and now it was too late to take back their laughter. The red light from Hyejin's plasma blade painted the dining room in shades of blood and shadow. The Krex leader's body twitched once and went still. Green fluid spread across the metal floor in a growing pool. Chitik's mandibles clicked rapidly in panic. She killed Vorthak. The human killed Vorthak. The two Velthari holding neural disruptors behind Taeho and Dowan raised their weapons, but their hands shook. This was not supposed to happen. Humans were weak. Humans were prey. Shoot her, Seth commanded, his yellow eyes wide with shock and growing fear. The first Velthari pulled the trigger of his neural disruptor. The energy beam lanced through the air where Hyejin had been standing a split second before. She moved like water flowing around a rock. The beam struck the wall and left a scorch mark on the metal. She was already among them. The plasma blade swept in a perfect arc. The Velthari who had fired watched his weapon fall to the floor in two pieces. Then he looked down and saw the matching cut across his chest. Green blood welled from the wound before he collapsed. Impossible, Vex whispered. No species moves that fast. Hyejin spun toward the sound of his voice. Her blade caught the light as it moved. The Velthari tried to backpedal, but his reptilian legs tangled together. He fell backward onto the dining table, scattering plates and food. The plasma edge found his throat before he could scream. Chitik and the remaining Krex scrambled toward the door, but Hyejin was faster. She dove under the dining table and came up on the other side between them and their escape route. "Where are you going?" she asked. Her voice stayed perfectly calm, like she was asking about the weather. The Krex warrior named Blix raised his claws and charged at her. He was twice her size with natural weapons and armor plating. A lifetime of hunting and killing had made him confident in close combat. Hyejin stepped sideways and let his momentum carry him past her. The plasma blade traced a line along his shell as he went by. Superheated metal and chitin sprayed across the room. Blix took 3 more steps before realizing he was already dead. 4 down, Hyejin said to no one in particular. 9 to go. Seth finally understood what they were facing. This was not a cultural attaché. This was not a diplomat. This was something else wearing human skin. A predator that had been hiding among sheep. Neural disruptors, he shouted to his remaining people. All of you, fire together. 3 energy beams converged on Hyejin's position. She was already gone. The beams crossed harmlessly in empty air while she moved through the shadows cast by the dining table and fallen bodies. A Velthari screamed. Then another. The plasma blade found them in the darkness like a red star falling through night. Chitik pressed his back against the wall near the door. His compound eyes tracked desperately for movement, but the humans seemed to disappear and reappear at will. The dining room had become a maze of overturned furniture and bodies. Seth. He buzzed in panic. We need to run. We need to call for backup. But Seth was no longer answering. Chitik looked around frantically and saw the Velthari commander sprawled near his dining platform. His yellow eyes stared at nothing. A precise cut had opened his throat from ear to ear. The remaining Krex and Velthari huddled together in the center of the room. Back to back! Weapons pointed outward, waiting for death to come for them. Show yourself human. One of the Velthari called out, face us with honor. Soft laughter came from somewhere in the shadows. Honor. You want to talk about honor now? A neural disruptor flew through the air and clattered across the floor. Its owner followed a moment later, missing the arm that had held it. You were going to sell us. Hyejin's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Like animals. Like property. Another weapon flew past their heads. Another slaver fell silently. The survivors pressed closer together. 3 Krex and 2 Velthari. All that remained of 13 confident predators who had thought they were hunting helpless prey. Please. Chitik's voice cracked with terror. We surrender. We will let you go. All of you, surrender. The word dripped with cold amusement. Do you know what happened to the last group that tried to enslave humans? Silence answered her. Neither do I. She continued. Because none of them lived to tell the story. The plasma blade's red glow appeared at the edge of their vision. Then it was gone again, moving through the darkness like a hunting cat's eyes. One of the Velthari broke. He ran for the door screaming in his native language. He almost made it. The blade took him just as his claws touched the door controls. 4 left. Hyejin's calm voice announced. Chitik looked around at his remaining companions. A Krex named Thex who specialized in breaking difficult slaves. A Velthari called Nesh who ran holding facilities. Another Krex whose name he had never learned. All of them seasoned killers. All of them reduced to terrified children hiding from a monster in the dark. What are you? Thex buzzed. What kind of human are you? The kind you should have listened to when she said hands off. The plasma blade emerged from the shadows directly in front of them. Heejin followed it like a ghost made of flesh and fury. Her clothes were spattered with alien blood, but her expression remained perfectly composed. She looked at the 4 remaining slavers with the detached interest of a scientist studying insects. Time to finish this, she said. The blade hummed as it moved through the air. 4 lives ended in 4 precise strikes. No wasted motion. No unnecessary cruelty. Just efficient professional killing. Hyejin stood alone among the bodies in the ruined dining room. Green and yellow blood painted the walls and floor. The smell of burned flesh and superheated metal filled the air. She looked down at her chronometer. 8 minutes and 37 seconds had passed since the Krex leader had touched her wrist. Still have time to spare, she said to the silence. Heejin walked carefully through the carnage, checking each body with professional thoroughness. The plasma blade had burned through alien flesh and bone like a hot knife through butter. None of them were still breathing. None of them would ever hunt again. She knelt beside the Krex leader's corpse and searched through his equipment. Her fingers found a communication device and a set of data chips. The device showed recent messages in multiple alien languages. "Captain," she called softly. Taeho raised his head from where he had been trying to revive Dowan. The neural disruptor blast had stunned the young communications officer, but not killed him. His eyes were starting to focus again. "Status report," Taeho said automatically. 13 hostiles eliminated. No human casualties. I am accessing their communication logs now. Hyejin's voice stayed calm and professional, like she was reporting the weather. Nari crawled over to check on Dowan. Her hands shook as she ran medical scans on him. Vital signs are stable. The neural disruption is wearing off. He should be fully conscious in a few minutes. Taeho looked around the dining room. Bodies lay everywhere. The walls were painted with splashes of green and yellow blood. The smell was getting worse as alien bodily fluids mixed with the recycled air. "Hyejin," he said carefully. "What exactly are you?" She looked up from the communication device. Data scrolled across its screen in alien text that she seemed to read easily. "Cultural attaché, as stated in my mission files. Cultural attachés do not usually carry military-grade plasma weapons. This one does." Dowan groaned and sat up slowly. He looked around the room and his face went pale. "What happened? Where are the aliens?" "Dead," Nari said simply. Heejin killed them all. Dowan stared at the woman who had been quietly reading reports just hours earlier. She was now covered in alien blood and holding a weapon that could cut through armored bulkheads, all of them. He whispered, "All of them," she confirmed, without looking up from the device. The communication logs painted a disturbing picture. The slaving operation was much larger than a simple ambush. Multiple ships. Dozens of operatives. Networks spanning 3 star systems, Captain, Hyejin said. This was not random. They have been hunting human diplomatic missions for months. We are the 4th team they have targeted. What happened to the others? Unknown. But the logs mention holding facilities and buyer networks. I am extracting all data now. She connected the alien device to her own equipment and began copying files. Names, locations, financial records, everything needed to map the entire criminal organization. There are more humans in their custody, she continued. The previous diplomatic teams. They are being held at a facility 3 systems from here. Taeho felt sick. Other humans, other crews who had walked into similar traps believing they were conducting peaceful negotiations. How many? 16 confirmed. Possibly more? Heejin finished copying the data and stood up. We need to contact Earth Command immediately. The station authorities will investigate this, Nari said. When they find the bodies. No. Hyejin shook her head. This dining room is in a private section. The bodies will not be discovered until someone comes looking. That gives us time. Time for what? Dowan asked. He was feeling better but still confused about everything that had happened. Time to free the other humans. Time to shut down this operation completely. Taeho studied her carefully. The woman who had sat quietly in their briefings back on Earth. Who had answered questions about alien customs and diplomatic protocols. Who had seemed like the least dangerous member of their team. You are not really a cultural attaché, are you? I am exactly what I need to be, Captain. She walked to the dining room door and checked the corridor outside, empty. My primary mission was to protect this team and complete the diplomatic objectives. My secondary mission was to investigate reports of missing human personnel. Secondary mission. Earth Command suspected something like this was happening. Human crews disappearing in this sector. No distress calls. No wreckage. Just gone. She sealed the dining room door and activated privacy locks. The carnage inside would remain hidden for now. So they sent someone who could handle the situation if diplomacy failed. Hyejin cleaned her plasma blade and returned it to its hidden sheath. Diplomacy failed. Duan was starting to understand. You are Special Forces military, former military, current diplomatic protection specialist. The distinction is not important right now. She pulled up building schematics on her portable device. There are 3 Krek ships docked at this station. Probably more operatives aboard. We need to neutralize them before they realize their associates are dead. We cannot fight an entire ship full of aliens, Nari protested. We do not need to fight them, Hyejin replied. We need to eliminate them quietly, efficiently, before they can warn the rest of their network. She looked at each of her teammates in turn. This is not a diplomatic mission anymore. This is a rescue operation. Are you prepared for what that means? Taeho thought about the other human crews. 16 people held prisoner by alien slavers. 16 people who had trusted in peaceful contact just like his team had. What do you need from us? Stay here. Monitor communications. If any alien ships try to leave the station, alert me immediately. She checked her equipment and prepared to leave. I will handle the ships. Alone? Duan asked. I work better alone. She moved toward the door, then stopped and looked back at them. For just a moment, her professional mask slipped. Something human and angry showed in her eyes. They laughed, she said quietly, when I told them to keep their hands off. They thought it was funny, the mask. Returned. Cold. Professional. Deadly. They are not laughing anymore. She opened the door and disappeared into the corridor, leaving her teammates alone with the bodies and the growing understanding that they had never really known her at all. Hyejin moved through the station's maintenance corridors like a shadow with purpose. The service tunnels ran between the main levels where most beings never went. Perfect for someone who needed to travel unseen. Her portable scanner showed 3 Krex vessels docked at the commercial ports. The data she had taken from the dead slavers included access codes and crew rosters. 23 more Krex warriors aboard the ships, all waiting for word from their hunting party. Word that would never come. She reached the first docking bay through an air filtration shaft. The Krex ship squatted on the landing platform like a giant metal insect. Dark hull plating absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Weapon ports dotted its surface like dead eyes. 2 guards stood at the boarding ramp. They chittered quietly to each other in their native language about the delay. Their leader should have reported in an hour ago. Hyejin dropped from the ventilation shaft directly behind them. The plasma blade ignited and extinguished twice. Both guards fell without making a sound. She dragged their bodies into the shadows and took their communication devices. Then she walked up the boarding ramp like she belonged there. The ship's interior smelled of chitin and machine oil. Curved corridors designed for insectoid movement. Low gravity that felt strange after the station's Earth-normal environment. She found the first crew member in the navigation section. He looked up from his instruments as she entered. Who are? He began to ask. The question ended abruptly. Hyejin moved on to the next compartment. The engine room held 3 more Krex. They died before they could reach their weapons. The plasma blade cut through their shells like they were made of paper. One of them managed to trigger an alarm before falling. Red lights flashed throughout the ship and a buzzing siren filled the air. Hyejin smiled grimly. Let them come. It would save her the trouble of hunting them through the ship's corridors. They came in a rush. 6 Krex warriors armed with energy weapons and cutting tools. They moved fast, but she moved faster. The confined spaces of the ship worked against them. Their larger size became a disadvantage in the narrow passages. She used their own tactics against them. Strike and fade. Hit them where they were weakest. Use the environment as a weapon. A plasma rifle beam scorched past her head and melted a hole in the bulkhead. She rolled under the shot and came up inside their formation. The blade found 3 targets before they could react. The remaining Kreks tried to fall back to a wider compartment. She followed them like death with a purpose. One by one they fell until only silence remained. Hee-jin stood in the ship's command center surrounded by bodies and the smell of burned chitin. She accessed the communication system and sent a coded message to the other Kreks ships. Situation contained, returning to base with cargo. Then she set the ship's reactor to overload and left through the maintenance tunnels. The second ship took longer. The crew had heard the explosion from the first vessel and were on alert. But alert did not make them ready for what came aboard their ship. Hee-jin entered through the cargo bay while they watched the main entrances. She moved through their ship like a plague, silent, unstoppable, thorough. By the time they realized she was among them, half their number was already dead. The rest died trying to stop something they could not see coming. The third ship tried to launch when the second one exploded. Hee-jin reached it just as the engines began to power up. She cut through the hull plating with her plasma blade and entered directly into the engineering section. The ship never left the docking bay. When she returned to the dining room 2 hours later, her teammates were huddled together watching the corridor. The sounds of explosions and emergency sirens had carried through the station's structure. "Status report," Taeho said as she entered. 3 ships neutralized. All crew eliminated. No survivors to warn the main network. She sat down calmly and began cleaning her equipment. "I have also accessed their ship computers. Full intelligence on their operation." Do-won stared at her. "You destroyed 3 entire ships by yourself." "The ships destroyed themselves. I simply arranged for reactor overloads after eliminating the crews." Nari looked pale. "How many were there?" 23 more hostiles. Total enemy casualties for this operation. 36 confirmed kills. The numbers hung in the air like smoke. 36 alien beings who had woken up this morning expecting to profit from human suffering, who had laughed at the idea that their victims might fight back. "What happens now?" Taeho asked. "Now we contact Earth Command with everything we have learned. Locations of holding facilities, names of buyers, financial networks, everything needed to shut down this operation permanently." She pulled up star charts on her device. "I recommend immediate military response. Fast strike teams to free the captured humans, simultaneous raids on all known facilities, and us. We complete our original mission. The Velthari Consortium will be very interested in making a deal now that their slaving partners are dead. I suspect we will get favorable terms for those mining rights." Do-won laughed shakily. "After all this, we are still going to negotiate. Of course. That is why we came here." Hee-jin looked at him with genuine confusion. "The diplomatic mission continues. We simply removed some obstacles along the way." Captain Taeho looked around the blood-soaked dining room, at the bodies of beings who had thought humans were easy prey, at the woman who had proved them wrong in the most final way possible. "Your report to Earth Command," he said. "What will it say?" "That we encountered hostile forces during diplomatic negotiations. That appropriate defensive measures were taken. That the threat has been neutralized." She stood and walked to the viewing port. Outside the station continued its normal operations. Ships coming and going, traders conducting business. Life going on as if 36 predators had not just learned the hardest lesson in the galaxy. "I will also recommend immediate classification change for human diplomatic personnel." She continued. "We are not the harmless primitives the galaxy believes us to be." "What are we then?" Hee-jin watched a transport ship undock and head toward the stars. Somewhere out there, other humans were waiting to be rescued. Other slavers were learning that humanity had noticed their activities. "We are the species that remembers when someone laughs at our warnings," she said quietly. "We are the ones who make sure they never get the chance to laugh again." The message would spread through the criminal underworld faster than light travel. A new rule that would be written in the blood of those who learned it too late. When a human says hands off, you listen. Or the floor ends up red.